Welcome to Trinity Anglican Church's 185th anniversary video. Think about it, 185 years. That's an impressive number when compared to the number of years that Canada has been a nation or that Barrie has been a municipality. Trinity has been home to many generations of Anglicans who chose to worship here. The theme for our celebration is yesterday, today, and tomorrow. During the video, you'll see historic pictures of our church and the events that were celebrated here. You will hear from some of our longtime parishioners, see pictures of baptisms, confirmations, and marriages, as well as other events that were celebrated within our walls, and listen to the delightful music of our organist, Marina Laking, and our Trinity Praise Band. So now sit back, relax, and enjoy the video.
It is such a great joy and delight for me as the Bishop of Toronto to be greeting you, Trinity Church, on the occasion of your 185th anniversary. For almost 2 centuries, you have played a significant role in preaching the gospel, of serving the poor and the most vulnerable, of gathering a community in prayer and teaching the faith. From humble beginnings on Bursey Street to taking your place on the hill, you have served Barrie with a great compassion, a deep faithfulness, and a watchful eye. I am grateful for all of the clergy who, in their own time, have stood at the table to break the bread, to pour out the wine, and to encourage a community to feast on the banquet that God has set before us. I am grateful for all of the lay leaders down through the years who have offered their time, talent, and treasure for the sake of living out their baptismal covenant, for the sake of the kingdom of God. If the old walls of the building could tell the stories over the years, what might they say? If the pews could speak of the burdens that have been carried by ordinary worshipers, what might they speak? If the kneelers could utter the prayers and petitions that have been offered over the years, what might they speak to? They would speak of prayers of love, of hope, encouragement for self and for neighbor, and for the love of God. Trinity Church, I am grateful that for all these years you have been a gathering place for a people who have yearned to touch and to be touched by God, to love and to be loved by God, to know and to be known by God. I am grateful for 185 years. Thank you for your faithful service, and may the next 185 years be filled with joy and wonder as you continue to walk in the footsteps of our Lord and Savior, Jesus Christ.
Hi everyone, I'm Barrie Mayor Jeff Lehman. I'm pleased to be offering greetings on behalf of City Council for the 185th anniversary of Trinity Anglican Church. I've spent a fair amount of time at Trinity over the years. I know it to be one of the most special spaces in our city, the most incredible ornate woodwork and magical history that is on that site and in the institution. It's also always been and continues to be one of the most community-minded and generous churches in our community. And I want to thank you on behalf of a grateful community for the incredible list of outreach work that you do. I was going through the list here, the Elizabeth Fry Society, the Lunches, Youth Haven, Bucket Brigade, Women and Children Shelter, of course, its role in founding and continuing to support the David Busby Street Center. The incredible work done here at home and, of course, in other communities and even overseas. The generosity of the parishioners of Trinity Anglican is legendary in our community, and it is so important. Thank you for stewarding the property. Thank you for stewarding the mission of the church and the messages of the Anglican Church, which are so very important. We live in a time when too few people follow the golden rule in the way they deal with one another, and we would all be better to follow the golden rule some more. Over 185 years, Trinity has played this valuable role in our community, and it's my wish as mayor that you continue that great work for many years to come. So thank you to all those especially who are organizing the anniversary of the church, the celebrations, and for your continued work in support of this remarkable congregation. Thank you.
Is the Hello, my name is Norma Pratt. I have been coming to Trinity Church for 70 years. Can't believe that. My story begins with my dad coming to Canada at the age of 16 with his sister, joining the Canadian Army at the age of 17 and went to Europe to fight in First World War. My mother came to Canada with her mother and dad and family. After returning to Canada, my father met my mother and settled in Oakville, where I was born, and they ran a small store with magazines and books and cigarettes and tobaccos. At the age of 3, my parents moved back to England, where we lived for 13 years. With the breakout of World War II, we survived on the rationing. In 1950, when I was 16 years old, we moved back to Canada and took residence on Holgate Street in Allendale at the south end of Barrie, from where my mother and I walked to Trinity Church on Sunday mornings, regardless of the weather, to attend the service. In later years, I met my husband, who was driving city bus in Barrie. His route was one I took every day to go to work. We became good friends, and then asked me out, and we became good friends again. And then in 1956, he asked me to marry him. Of course, it was Trinity Church where we got married on June the 2nd by Reverend Alan Reed, and held a reception in the old parish hall. My husband's family were families in England, not in England, in Innisfil. His grandfather donated land to St. Paul's cemetery, and that's where all the Pratt's family are buried, except my husband, who is in Barrie. Throughout the years, I participated in many ways at Trinity. I taught Sunday school, sang in the choir, and joined the altar guild with my mother. My husband, Reginald, and I have 2 beautiful children who were baptized and married at Trinity. They were blessed with 6 grandchildren. I lost my husband in 2007, and my son died from cancer at a young age of 38. It has been 70 years since coming to Trinity, and I have a lot of wonderful friends and cherished memories and to be thankful for. I am especially grateful now that I will be a great-grandmother next March. Congratulations to the parish of Trinity for being important part of the city of Barrie, and for being part of my life. Thank you.
Hello, this is a picture of Gwen Scott. Gwen has been attending Trinity Anglican Church regularly for the past 75 years. Yes, you heard it right, 75 years of faithful dedication to this parish. Gwen is unable to share her personal story regarding Trinity Church at this time, and has asked me to pass along her message to everyone. When I was 10 years old in 1945, my family came to Barrie and attended service at Trinity Anglican Church every single Sunday. My father was a school teacher and later in his career became a local school inspector. And I followed in my dad's footsteps and became a teacher as well. I taught grade 4 for 14 years. One of my prize students was former Premier Kathleen Wynne. While I was attending Teachers College, I would come home every weekend to attend Trinity services. For a while, I was teaching Sunday school. However, my longest commitment to Trinity was singing in the choir. During these unprecedented times, my attendance streak has been interrupted while I stay socially distanced for my protection and safety. However, Trinity Anglican Church is never far from my heart and mind. I thank God for all the wonderful friendships in faith I have developed over the years, and grateful for their love and support during these difficult times. God bless all at Trinity as we celebrate 185 years of worship in Barrie.
I want to begin by congratulating everyone at Trinity on your 185th anniversary. It is a truly marvelous milestone. My parents left their first parish and came to Trinity Barrie when I was 1 year old. It was my privilege to grow up at Trinity and to stay there until I was 19 years old. When my father was elected bishop and moved to Toronto, I boarded with Jack and Miriam Duval, and they were very good to me, very kind to me, even staying up late to watch the NBA games with me. One of my first memories at Trinity came on the rectory at Collier Street. My father came home from synod. It was later in the afternoon. I was upstairs and I heard something about my father and a canon. I had no idea what that meant, but I came and slid down the banister as quickly as I could and ran out the front door and looked on the porch and in the front yard to see if I could find the canon. It took me a while to figure that one out. Years and years later, when I was named the canon of St. James Cathedral, someone addressed me as Canon Reed. I instinctively turned and looked to see if my father was there. My father was always very busy in parish life, and I have another fond memory from about the same time. I thought it would be just marvelous for us to have a quiet family day at home without all of the normal people that came to the rectory on a regular basis to see my father. So, an idea. I got the garden hose and I sprayed the front porch with lots of water, the same porch where I had looked for the canon. And then, having got it very wet, I went and made a little sign. My little sign said, "Wet paint." The day was going really well, and everybody, my parents were so surprised that no one, absolutely no one, came to the house. Nobody came and rang the front doorbell. The day was going so well until some man came and started banging on the kitchen window, giving my poor mother a real fright. He apologized profusely through the window and said that he had to see my dad, but that he did not want to step on the wet paint. My parents, in puzzlement, went and opened the front door, saw my sign, and laughed and laughed and laughed. They told me how my idea had worked very well, but that I was not ever to do it again. When the parish hall was being built, I was perhaps about 6 years old. My father took me up on the roof of the hall as it was being constructed. My mother never knew that I was up there at that age. I had to watch my footing very, very carefully because there were so many crosses of steel rebar everywhere right across the entire roof. It was certainly built to last. And the view was pretty neat as well. I grew up in Cubs and Scouts, and of course, the junior choir. Most Sundays, we, the junior choristers, filled the front 2 rows of the choir stalls. And we also went and sang in other churches in Simcoe County and in seniors' homes as well. It was a really good time. It was during this time that the new prayer book was introduced. That was the book that replaced the old English prayer book. There was grumbling, always grumbling. As choristers, my father had us memorize the Sunday services, and Marge Sproul heard our memory work. I remembered that technique when the BAS came out, and my parish of Innisfil was the first one in the county to begin using that book. When my voice changed, I joined the platoon of servers. That was special. There were over 60 of us. I was so impressed that so many of the older servers came home from university so that they could take their turn serving. In my high school days, Trinity seemed to go through periods between caretakers, and so my little dog and I were given the job of going and locking up the church every night. One winter evening, we found 21 children hiding throughout the building. They were hiding everywhere, from up in the organ pipes in the church, to the storeroom over the kitchen in the parish hall, and there were even more kids hiding in the hall basement, in the lower hall, in the cupboards, and in those different Sunday school classrooms. 21 children. That was a record. At this time, I was also on the Barrie North Collegiate basketball team. Having keys meant that I could get into the parish hall. Many, many, many Saturday mornings found the North Vikings basketball team in the parish hall playing basketball. And that continued on through the morning until we were so hungry we had to go home to get something to eat. In 1966, my father was named the Citizen of the Year for Barrie for his work in the Barrie jail. He was very proud of that award because it brought great credit to Trinity. The prison ministry was very, very important to my father. He kept up his correspondence with his prison buddies right up until his dying day. Two things really stand out for me in my memories of growing up at Trinity. Two things: the people and the worship. There were so many kind people. Sometimes I would go visiting with my father. I remember going to the Caldwell farm. To this day, when I smell the sweet fragrance of fresh grain, my mind carries me back to the Caldwell barn. I remember it vividly, and such smells trigger that memory. Audrey Milligan managed to get me through my first 3 years of public school and taught my siblings piano as well. Mrs. Piggott made us cookies. Really, really good cookies. Marion Baker made us Christmas stockings, still in use today. And Bob Mitchell toured us around his brand new high schools of Eastview and Twin Lakes. I remember the very happy time visiting the Owens' new home in Shanty Bay, and so much more. So many people came to the rectory for dinners before the Lenten speakers. My mother was always hosting dinners. Kay French made our wedding cake, or what day we were married. So my first core memory, is of wonderful, wonderful, kind people. My experience of worship at Trinity was always dynamic. It was cutting edge. I didn't know that at the time. It was cutting edge. My father celebrated the Eucharist facing the people. We used the new Burgundy prayer book, and there was just a great variety of music. We sang the old hymns with great enthusiasm and a huge amount and variety of new music as well. We came to love the music of the medical mission sisters and sang hymns to popular tunes such as The Happy Wanderer. One time we hosted a music group from Argentina. I think, as I recall, they were called the Picaflores. They played with harps, and they brought down the house. In quiet times, my father found peace playing Bach on the wonderfully upgraded and restored organ at Trinity. During one special mission, perhaps when the Bishop of Coventry was there, I'm not for sure certain of that, but I think that could be. When the Bishop of Coventry was there, my father had pennants and streamers hanging all over the hill, running across to the parish hall, from tree to lamp post. There were streamers and pennants everywhere. It was all too much for one poor old soul who came to my father with great concern and said, "It looks like a service station." Well, my father was taken aback for just a moment, but I never forgot his answer. I quote, "That's a perfect description. It's what we are. We are a service center for the Lord. We come in to get tuned up, and we go out." Unquote. People and worship. When my father was consecrated bishop at St. James Cathedral in Toronto, the cathedral was packed, and half of the people present were Trinity Barry. The wardens presented my father with his episcopal ring. There is not another ring like it in the world. The second last thing my father did before he died was take that ring off his finger, put it into my hand, and close my fingers over it. His work was complete. His work in this world was done. It has been my honor and joy to wear that ring. And at times when I visit Trinity, people have been thrilled to see it and to touch it. It brings back such memories to me and also to them. Good times, good memories, great worship, and wonderfully kind people. When I did my divinity degree at Trinity College in Toronto, and periodically in the years that followed, people have asked me, what was my home parish? With great affection, I have always answered, Trinity Barry.
This is the Laking and Jones saga, two families that are united. Wib Laking and Alma Jones came from the Lisle area and attended St. James Anglican Church nearby. In 1927, Wib was hired by Mr. T.P. Loblaw to go down to his third groceteria in Toronto, and he got a start on his 42-year career. So Alma went to Toronto, and they married in Toronto, and a year later along came William Laking, the firstborn. 4 children eventually, Bill, John, Jim, and Joan, were all baptized here in Trinity, and Wib was a warden for 3 terms. And in 1934, following the lightning strike in this building, he was part of the reconstruction committee. Alma was very active in the Ladies' Auxiliary and did fundraising in that building, not the present one. They fundraised to build the new structure, and it did get built by 1957. However, Alma was struck down with Parkinson's disease, and it took her life in January of 58. Bill Laking, our oldest, was our hero, and at school he was excellent, mastered his studies and sports. He was the officer commanding of the Army Cadets. He was a strong hockey player, played defense for the Barrie Colts, and had a pending offer from the American League for the December of 45. However, an appendix rupture took his life on November the 11th, 45. Dr. Bill Little did not have penicillin to administer. The obituaries that appeared in the Barrie Examiner quoted Reverend R.H. Howden, that what he had said in the service. He said Bill was the president of the boys' Bible class, organized young men for sideman duties, and he coached the Little League church-sponsored hockey team. The other Laking children were John, Jim, and Joan. A job transfer moved John to London and St. Thomas, Ontario, where he and Janice McCuick married in St. Thomas. They later moved to Barrie and became members of the Collier Street United Church. John died on October the 16th, 2018. Jim moved to Saskatchewan to pursue his career, and that gave him an opportunity to meet Marina Townsend. And they were married in the United Church at Nesbitt, Manitoba. Marina was later confirmed as an Anglican at St. Stephen's Church in Swift Current, Saskatchewan. Their 3 children, Lana, Lance, and James, were all married at St. Aidan's Church, which was the home church for Ray Martinelli and his parents. Joan Alma Laking was a well-loved and successful teacher at Hillcrest School in Barrie. She married Earl Winter on July the 9th, 55, right here in Trinity, and Earl's career moved them away later to various places in Ontario, but they were able to return to Barrie area and resume activities at Trinity. Sadly, Joan died to this life on November the 17th, 2020. The father of Wib Laking, Arthur Laking, lived just 73 years, and he was a forester and a carpenter and was buried in the Alliston Union Cemetery. The father of Alma was Jesse Jones. He was a successful farmer. He died tragically in 1918 without isolation. A returned soldier from WW1 infected Jesse with the Spanish flu. Val Jones, the brother of Alma Laking, had a daughter, Nancy, who married Rick Monkman at the St. James Church at Lisle. And their son, Matthew, was married at Trinity here, and their children baptized here. A sister of Alma Laking was Marjorie, whose daughter, Pamela, married Jerry Partridge. All these Trinity members and these cousins are ready to be ushers when our church is normal again. Thank you.
Hi, my name is Mary Lem Story, and I was the music director here at Trinity Anglican Church from 2001 to 2013. I came to Trinity at the age of 13 in 1970. The organist and choir director at that time, June Mellenbacher, was my private vocal music teacher who asked me to sing a solo at Trinity. I remember this day very clearly as it was a life-changing moment for me. I was very moved by the beautiful Anglican service, especially the Eucharist. My family at that time were active members of Collier Street United Church. After the service, I went home and asked my mom if I could become a member of Trinity and sing in the choir. My parents, Sylvia and Ernest Kent, agreed, and thus began my spiritual journey at Trinity. Bishop Reed was the incumbent at the time and played a very important role in my early spiritual development, as well as Canon Nameby, Canon Francis, and Canon Spears. The choir was a wonderful community of dedicated Christians, and although I was only 13, made me feel such a part of the family of God. I still remember the mortar boards we wore and having to always blow the tassel out of my eyes. It was here that I met my future husband, Tunny Lem, a gifted tenor who I sang with in the choir for many years, and we were active members of Trinity. We were married at Trinity and raised our 2 sons, Peter and David. Sadly, Tunny died to this life on December 31st, 1998, from cancer. In the summer of 2001, I was asked if I would consider becoming the choir director, as Reverend Janet Mitchell at that time was embarking on the completion of our ordination to the ministry in the Anglican Church. I agreed to be the interim choir director for 1 year to help the choir adjust until a new director could be found. However, God had other plans for me, as I was the choir director until June of 2013. It was an honor and gave me great joy to work with Marina Laking, a very gifted organist and musician who has such humility and dedication, and directing the choir was such an amazing experience. The choir had been my family for so many years, through joyful times and also the saddest times of my life, that I find words difficult to try and express how much each and every member has meant to me. I looked forward every week to our choir practice where we could sing together and prepare our music to be a special offering of praise and worship for the congregation on Sunday mornings, special celebrations during the church year, weddings, funerals, and other events throughout the year. A few highlights over the 12 years that hold special memories I would like to share. Our annual spring evensong and ham dinner, originally a hymn sing, and all funds raised were donated to a special project chosen by the choir. In later years, the money raised paid for all the music used by the senior and youth choirs. Joint services several times a month with the contemporary music team, as well as the Christmas Eve family service. New choir gowns after many years, changing from black and white to blue. The youth choir presentation of Sister Act. Christmas Eve, the 11 p.m. candlelight service welcoming Christmas morning. Recording of our first CD, Seasons, in June 2010, with all proceeds contributing to the refurbishment of the organ. The devotions prior to every choir practice, shared by all members of the choir, Marina, and myself. The blessing, sung by present and returning choir members, accompanied by Marina, at the benefit concert for my late son Peter, who died to this life on August 31st, 2012, from cancer. The love and support of the choir and congregation is forever cherished. I would like to conclude by sharing a verse from my favorite psalm, Psalm 27, verse 6. And now my head shall be lifted up above my enemies round about me. and I will offer in his tent sacrifices with shouts of joy. I will sing and make melody to the Lord. Congratulations to Trinity Anglican Church on the wonderful celebration of 185 years of continued worship and service to the community of Barrie and surrounding areas, and for always being the light on the hill. Much love and many blessings to all.
Throughout its 185-year history, Trinity Anglican Church Barrie has provided assistance to those in need, whether locally or in other areas of Ontario as required. One of the major benefactors has been the Women's and Children's Shelter of Barrie. We have handed out slippers, baby layettes, and special items as needed, and in the future we will be handing out kitchen boxes, as led by Joan Hill. Baby layettes are also given out to the Royal Victoria Hospital and the David Busby Street Centre on request. The Bucket Brigade is headed up by May Harrismew. These buckets are filled with essential cleaning items and provided to various clients at the Women's and Children's Shelter as needed. The Salvation Army is another benefactor of our outreach. Groups of parishioners go to the Salvation Army on the first and third Wednesday of each month to help prepare and serve the evening meal for up to 220 people and clean up afterwards. May also looks after the Northern Outreach for schools in the northern parts of Ontario, as well as isolated nursing stations. We provide toques, mitts, scarves, quilts, afghans, and sweaters to them. The David Busby Street Centre and Youth Haven are two other benefactors receiving donations of toques, mitts, socks, and other personal items. Youth Haven also receives continuous food donations. The Elizabeth Fry Society has received donations of food, personal products, sheets, pillows, and other items. We also make Izzy dolls that are shipped to nursing clinics in the Dominican Republic. Trinity also makes up 35 Christmas cheer baskets each year for seniors and shut-ins. The Anglican Church women host ladies from the diocese twice a year, once in February and again in June, for a diocesan get-together luncheon with entertainment. The men of the parish kindly get dressed up in bow ties and white shirts and set up, serve, and clean up to give the ladies a break. Scouting in Barrie is also a benefactor of Trinity. We provide space for scout groups from beavers all the way to venturers for them to hold their meetings. In turn, they host their annual Shrove Tuesday pancake dinner at our church, which is a wonderful fundraiser for them. There are 5 AA groups that meet at Trinity. We provide space for their meetings at a very reasonable rate. We also run Trinity Hilltop Day Camp, which is an 8-week day camp for children ages 5 to 13 each summer. It provides employment for high school and university-age students to learn leadership skills and how to run a small business. They do a wonderful job with the children, who come back year after year. Each year, members of Trinity help organize the Barrie Taizé community meditations at various churches in our city. In turn, Trinity takes turns hosting 1 or 2 of the meditation sessions. We host spaghetti suppers run by Monica Cox, and a number of parishioners help her make the meals and serve them. Monica and May help organize the yearly Lenten lunches. All of these outreach endeavors require funds so that we can help support them. Those funds are raised through mini meals and treats that are made by May Harrismew and sold throughout the year. Another fundraising effort is the performances put on by the Trinity Praise Band members. They put on concerts every so often, usually at Christmas and at special functions, such as Christmas in November. Locally, that funding is then used to help families and individuals in need upon request. Those include the Boy Scouts, the Busby Centre, Hospice, Youth Haven, Camp Hill, Sleeping Children Around the World, the Salvation Army, the Women and Children's Shelter, the Elizabeth Fry Society, and a discretionary fund. None of this would be possible without the outstanding leadership of May Harrismew. May was recognized for her contributions to our outreach efforts at the Bishop's Levee, where she was awarded the Order of the Diocese of Toronto on January 1st of this year. Well done, May, and congratulations. Trinity will continue our outreach tradition in the future to those in need in Barrie, throughout Ontario, and the world.
Welcome again to Trinity Church in Barrie, and I want to take a moment to share with you not only the past, which is an exciting and wonderful part of who we are here at Trinity, but also the future. I came here over 2 years ago and I looked at this community and I was absolutely amazed by the loyalty and love of the people here at Trinity. They are an amazing group of people, and they have made my life very much a better thing over the last few months and years. I have enjoyed working with them, and I have found them to be grounded in faith and giving in love. But the future lies ahead. You've heard about the past, I think, from several people, and you've heard our bishop talk about the fact that there's an exciting past here that if only the stones could talk kind of thing. And I think that's wonderful. But the challenge is the future. What do we do in the future to make our faith live in a community that is increasingly becoming either transient because of going down to Toronto to work, or retiring area because of the lakes and beautiful scenery around us? What do we face in the future? We know that society is changing. We know that young people are not necessarily running into churches anymore. So what do we do to reach the community as a whole? This community of faith has in the past had the Busby Center downstairs working with the needy on the streets. And there are in Barrie up to 500 to possibly, I've heard the figure, up to 1,000 people who live in or near the streets in their poverty. We have a very large campus here, if you will. We have a large auditorium downstairs, and we have inaccessible, in many ways, facilities. We have begun the process through our advisory board of looking at the idea of possibly providing low-income or geared-to-income housing, if you would call it that. Geared to income so that people could have decent housing at a reasonable price. We know the province and we know the city of Barrie are much in need of this kind of thing. And we have to look and say to ourselves, this church building is historic. It is a sacrosanct spot. It has to remain so. It's a heritage of who we are. But the other space that we have, can we turn it into something that is useful to people for the future? That brings people to know that we are a community of faith who are dedicated to the needs of the people in this community of Barrie. I think we can do that. We have to pray about it and we have to work at it. But the future is ours to grasp. If we really believe in the faith of Jesus Christ, there is nothing we cannot do. There is nothing we cannot share. There is nothing we cannot do for the will and the love of God for other people. Jesus called us to love our neighbors as we love ourselves. We do love God here, and this is a wonderful community to work in. But now we have to love our neighbor in a way that will be changing for this community and for our faith as well. I wish you the very best, and Trinity has the future to grasp. I know it can do so. In the name of God. Amen.
It is a privilege as the parish administrator to have worked closely with Reverend Terry and the amazing parishioners of Trinity Barrie throughout my time here. As has been seen in this tribute to Trinity's 185 years in Barrie, it is the people who have given so much of themselves to making it what it is today. We've heard many stories from our longtime parishioners about their experiences while worshiping and celebrating at Trinity. We have seen pictures of their weddings and other special occasions going back decades. We have heard the Trinity Praise Band, along with Marina Laking's joyful organ hymns. They are a wonderful addition to our services. We've also heard about the extensive outreach that has been done and will be done by the members of Trinity, led by people such as May and the Anglican Church women. This bodes well for the future of Trinity. As Reverend Terry said, it will be what the parishioners want it to be. In closing, I want to thank the members of the 185th Anniversary Committee for putting this video together. Reverend Janet Mitchell, Monica Cox, Sue Taylor, Ray Martinelli, and Bill Sargent have worked with many parishioners to record their stories and produce this tribute to Trinity. I know that they had other plans for bigger in-person celebrations, but those were scuttled by the COVID pandemic. However, like so many other activities, they have found a way to reach out to all of you. I hope that you've enjoyed the resulting video, and I want to wish you and Trinity all the very best in the future.